Our history is reflected in writing. The Egyptian papyrus, Shakespeare's plays, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, through to today's music lyrics by artists such as Ed Sheeran. Our everyday lives require us to be writers. Credit card signatures, social media, text, and email communication, to name but a few. These points remind us as educators that writing is an essential skill for learning and communicating. Today's presentation on what teachers need to know about writing as a learning difficulty focuses on understanding factors that contribute to writing difficulties, how to identify and assess writing difficulties, intervention and adjustment methods, and brings your attention to evidence-based teaching approaches and strategies. Writing is complex. Diane Wagner emphasized writing involves automaticity and juggling grammar, spelling, letter formation, vocabulary, punctuation, capitalization, content, and following directions. How do we define writing as a learning difficulty? Debate exists. If we Google search learning difficulties, we find that the terms difficulties and disabilities are used interchangeably. Put succinctly, learning difficulty results from external and internal factors and is viewed as responsive to intervention, whereas learning disability is identified as a neurological condition and does not respond readily to intervention. So let's get a better grasp, no pun intended, of writing as a learning difficulty. Peter Westwood describes two levels. The lower level involves handwriting, pencil grip and formation of letters, spelling, and punctuation. The higher level involves planning, sequencing, expressing, and revising content. No two students are the same. There are many causes why students experience writing difficulties, some external, others internal. I want to specifically draw your attention to neurological conditions as an internal cause. The terms dysgraphia and dyspraxia reflect causes of writing difficulties and should not be confused with defining a writing difficulty. These lists are not exhaustive. A major roadblock to learning is many students display a low level of motivation and maladaptive beliefs about causes of success and failures. They exhibit low self-esteem, low self-efficacy, and acquire learned helplessness. Early and accurate identification is critical. Remember that students with writing difficulties can display a range of characteristics, and there is no validated checklist. Erica Patino and Diane Wagner describe what you should be looking for: messy handwriting, writing is painstakingly slow, being overwhelmed by writing, refusal to write or complete work, mixing up or omitting letters, poor grasp of spelling, difficulty holding a pencil, weak revision and proofreading skills, low self-esteem, attentional weakness, distractibility or fatigue, and limited interest in reading books. These characteristics are supported by the National Association of Special Education Teachers. A telltale warning sign of writing difficulties is when a child can present their ideas verbally, but the writing product is limited and poorly constructed. If children are not achieving the key writing milestones of Wilson Katz's early childhood development, another warning bell goes off. Parallel to the identification process, educators need to access their toolkit of formal and informal assessments. We would all be familiar with the literacy component of the National Assessment Plan for Literacy and Numeracy, NAPLAN, which helps teachers identify students' strengths and, importantly, challenges in writing. The Progressive Achievement Tests in Written Spelling, Punctuation and Grammar, or the PAT-SPG test, is a writing screener which tracks progress from year to year. NAPLAN and PAT-SPG are recommended formal assessments. Informal assessments must not be underestimated. Collections of written work through portfolios, observing students' behaviors when given written tasks, and listening to parent concerns are 3 examples. Timely communication to parents about concerns is important. However, it is not within the scope of teachers to provide formal diagnosis. I implore teachers to look beyond assessment methods. We need to instill fun with learning, especially where writing is a barrier. How do we create a powerful writing classroom, provide ongoing constructive feedback, and apply differentiation strategies to achieve a balanced approach of explicit and implicit instruction to teaching? The Australian Curriculum Assessment and Reporting Authority and Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority emphasise all students with disability are able to participate in the Australian curriculum on the same basis as their peers through rigorous, meaningful and dignified learning programs. Early intervention is critical. The tiered approach to intervention, known as Response to Intervention, RTI, is used to grade and balance students' learning. The RTI uses the Universal Design for Learning for all students. If students struggle with content or skill, intervention is applied. At Tier 2, students work in small groups. If difficulty continues, often an individual curriculum plan or ICP is provided at Tier 3. This tiered approach is useful when differentiating your teaching instruction. Adjustments include specialised equipment, accessing specialised services, extra time to complete work, modifying teaching practices, as evident in the following clip from the movie Blindside.
He knows it.
Who knows it, and what does he know?
The material, Michael Orr. I gave him this test verbally.
Is that even allowed?
A C? On how big a curve?
He's been listening all along. It's amazing what he's absorbed, and trust me, he's listening to you too. Now, his reading level is low, and he's got no idea how to learn in a classroom. I'm not saying he's gonna pass, but Big Mike is not stupid.
This exemplified the power of dictation as an adjustment for assessment. Another adjustment includes assistive technology such as speech-to-text software. Carly's app encourages students to create their own personalised stories using photos and voice to assist with comprehension. Research suggests assistive technology makes the process of writing easier and motivating for students with writing difficulties, but caution is necessary. Computer skills can cause difficulties for students with sound symbol association problems in spelling and reading if introduced too early. Adjustments allow students access to the same opportunities and choices in their education and promotes personalised learning that aims to fulfil the diverse capabilities of each young Australian. We will now briefly overview cognitive instruction and sentence combining evidence-based strategies. Your Year 1 class is focusing on the ACARA content descriptor, write using unjoined lowercase and uppercase letters. So I ask all of you, if a student in your class has writing as a learning difficulty, how are they expected to reach this curriculum requirement? Zwecker and Horden focus on letter formation and spacing using cognitive instruction. In brief, students participate in a letter and sound warm-up. The teacher models directionality for letter formation. The students then trace the letters following teacher modelling through imitation. The Harry Potter magical writing trait is an innovative approach that is so much more interesting than a pencil. The students then practice their letter formation through the write, repeat, and copy process. The students then circle their best formed letter, encouraging self-assessment. Another example. Your Year 5 class is focusing on the ACARA content descriptor. Develop a handwriting style that is becoming legible, fluent, and automatic. So I again ask all of you, if a student in your class has writing as a learning difficulty, how are they expected to reach this curriculum requirement? Sadler's research applies sentence combining for improving quality of ideas and expression in written products. Dr. Graham explains further.
In terms of forming sentences. And it's important that we model that process. And a common way of doing that is to take smaller kernel sentences, model how to make those into more complex ones, have kids work with you to do the same thing, have kids work together, and then have them apply that in their own writing. And then finally, I think something that's extremely important is that we help kids become familiar with how to carry out the processes involved in planning, revising, monitoring, evaluating. We show that directly, we help kids master those things, and we encourage them to use those things.
Dr. Graham's explanation mirrors the gradual release of responsibility framework of I do, we do, and you do as key in the teaching process of sentence combining. Fisher and Frey confirm that gradual release of responsibility model is an effective approach for improving literacy achievement. These strategies provide a snapshot. The New South Wales and Queensland Department of Education and Training offer a wealth of resources on writing and spelling strategies. Seek these out. My key messages: identify causes and characteristics early, intervene early with differentiated adjustments, and link curriculum, legislation, and evidence-based teaching strategies. We as teachers must help students with writing difficulties develop an I can attitude. Remember, our history is reflected in writing. We as educators must instill the value of writing now and in the future.